It's coming up. It's just gone 3:30 in the afternoon. Wherever you're watching on Yes TV or the Sheikh Mansoor Festival around the world, you're very welcome. Our final session today, before we go out for a very special dinner tonight, which you will also see live on Yes TV, concerns women in racing. We have got a star-studded lineup of some of the top women in racing. And I'm very pleased to say that the lady who's going to look after things is the top lady race caller in Australia. She is my co-host at the Dali Awards in Hollywood just a few weeks ago. Let's give a big round of applause, please, to Victoria Shaw.
Derek, thank you very much, and indeed to everyone here in the room and all of our viewers on Yes TV. Welcome back to the Four Seasons Hotel in glorious Marrakesh, Morocco. And I would now invite all of our people here in the room at the Four Seasons Hotel. What about a round of applause, please, for our wonderful hosts here at the Four Seasons and indeed the great people of Marrakesh, Morocco. Certainly a fabulous destination and a very exciting place to find ourselves amongst, of course, for the World Arabian Horse Racing Conference. So without further ado, it is indeed my great privilege to be here, and I'd also like to express my sincere thanks to His Highness Sheikh Mansoor bin Zayed Al Nahyan, and of course Her Highness Sheikh Fatima bint Mubarak, and indeed their Executive Director who's seated here with us this afternoon, Lara Sawaya. So a big thank you to each and every one of them, and of course Yes TV as well. Our panellists here this afternoon, representing the United States, Stephanie Coram with the Arabian finishing line, Renee Koch from France, one of our prominent breeders as well. Also, of course, Moza El Mansouri, representing National Feed and Flour Human Resources Manager there. Needs no introduction, but we'll go again for the Executive Director of the Sheikh Mansoor Festival, Lara Sawaya in the centre. Lojan Omran from Saudi Arabia, who of course Lojan is a social media expert extraordinaire, and I look forward to catching up about how she'll be covering the festival as well, and indeed her input, which really is revolutionary for the region. The other side of Lojan, we have Elizabeth Bernard, one of our fabulous trainers from France, and a big Moroccan welcome too to our Moroccan local Mrs. Mona Benjaloum, one of our more prominent breeders and owners here in Morocco. And down the very end, wonderful to see from the United Kingdom, Debbie Burt from the Arabian Racehorse as well. So please, a round of applause for all of our panellists here this afternoon. Well, women in racing, it is still very much a subject and a topic which causes great debate, and many men, indeed, in the racing field will often question why we need such a panel. For many of us that are involved in the racing industry right around the world, whether it be Arabian racing or any other code of racing, many of us still question, is there a need to focus on women's engagement? And what this festival achieved has certainly reinforced that. Social commentators and historians use racing as a great societal barometer and a great way to measure too how society moves forward, particularly with the inclusion, of course, of women. It's the former United States President Barack Obama famously tweeted just last year, "You measure a nation's success or prosperity by the way it treats its women." Today, when we look at the global impact of the His Highness Sheikh Mansoor bin Zayed Al Nahyan Global Flat Racing Arabian Festival, and of course in conjunction with Her Highness Sheikh Fatima bint Mubarak, the racing series that extends opportunities to women right around the world, we'll examine that and indeed the further opportunities that they continually present. For many of us, it has certainly not been an easy path, but thanks to the festival and indeed the great work of Lara Sawaya, many of us have the chance to move forward like we never had before, particularly in our own nations, which are, for many of us are not in the Middle East. If we can reflect on a particularly landmark moment just a couple of years ago, thanks to the festival, and there's a great Moroccan tie with this as well. In Warsaw in 2015, the conference was held there, and Boujra Mamoul, representing Morocco, Morocco's first female jockey, had her first international race ride and indeed her first victory representing Morocco. 6 months later, Michelle Payne in my country wins the Melbourne Cup. When Boujra Mamoul arrived home in the wonderful land of Morocco, it was His Majesty King Mohammed VI that received her and had many great words to say to her, many great words of encouragement. That in itself really is revolutionary for many women involved in racing, and I think that's certainly a very poignant moment here as we find ourselves in Morocco, and I certainly would like to acknowledge that. So please join me in thanking His Majesty King Mohammed VI and his reception there to Boujra Mamoul. I think that deserves a round of applause. Wonderful acknowledgement. So 6 months later in my homeland, Michelle Payne wins the Melbourne Cup, one of the biggest Group 1 races in the world, irrespective whether it be a thoroughbred race or indeed a purebred Arabian race. But after that event, Michelle encountered an enormous amount of backlash. Of course, Michelle was congratulated by our Prime Minister, as indeed Boujra Mamoul was congratulated by His Majesty King Mohammed here in Morocco. Heading down the end to Debbie Burt firstly, Debbie, does the backlash that Michelle encountered after winning the Melbourne Cup, does that surprise you?
It disappoints me.
Right.
I wouldn't necessarily say I was surprised, but it's disappointing that we still encounter that now.
It was, I think, in my homeland and particularly in Western racing jurisdictions, there was a level of chatter about Michelle, and perhaps it was her opportunity to capitalise on what she had achieved, and indeed her own opportunity perhaps to market herself and make a financial return. And I often do wonder or question, was she heavily criticised? And indeed she was for doing so, simply because people feel that they can be harsher on a woman. And would we have been as harsh on a man perhaps if he'd achieved something in the world of soccer? You know, if he'd gone out and marketed himself and struck out all these marketing deals, he could have been the next face of a brand of sportswear or whatever. Would we have been as harsh on a man? Now, of course, Debbie, after that landmark moment, you helped facilitate a radio interview with the BBC that involved Michelle as the Melbourne Cup winner and JD Petrowitz, who of course is now relocated to Australia, and JD was of course our first Sheikh Fatima winner in Abu Dhabi. Can you tell us how that radio interview came to be?
Absolutely. I'm part of I belong to a group in England called Women in Racing, which really helps. It's more for networking, I think, than anything else, and that's certainly how I found it most useful. But they contacted me because the BBC had contacted them looking for female jockeys from other countries other than Britain who might be interested in talking about their experiences. And I felt that obviously the juxtaposition between JD, who'd been an amateur and had won the first Sheikh Fatima race, that World Championship race, and with Michelle was an interesting starting point, also given that JD had recently relocated to Australia. So I put her contact details forward, and I think it was a very good programme that they produced.
Now, that's still available online too. I think it's uploaded to SoundCloud or whatever we can find it. The exact name of the program in the BBC?
To be perfectly honest, I had to look it up because it was about a year ago now. So you know.
But Debbie and I will make that available to you all.
It was on the BBC World Service.
Yes,
yeah.
And it's certainly well worth listening to. It's a very extensive interview that covers about 40 or 45 minutes. Now, Debbie, in your sphere as a racing journalist, you've got a very strong thoroughbred background, as well as what you're working now with the Arabian Racing Organisation in England as well. Tell us a little bit about your work.
Well, I'm basically a freelance. I'm a freelance journalist and photographer working for myself. My own magazine, The Arabian Racehorse, is a digital publication, although occasionally we do print copies. And that supports essentially the Arabian racing in the UK. I also write for Stephanie Coram's magazine, The Arabian Finish Line, send pictures through to her as well from some of the Group 1 races around the world. But obviously during the racing season in England, my primary focus is for the Arabian Racing Organisation. And for them, I'm their media and PR executive and also their official photographer at the racetrack. So it's my job to help promote that racing in the UK.
Now, as I mentioned, my first point that I made, that Michelle achieved such great success, and equally so did Boujra Mamoul, a landmark moment, thanks to this festival and indeed Arabian racing. But Michelle encountering such backlash, and you mentioned that you were very much disappointed, when we look at the women that we have here up on stage, Debbie, in your work as a journalist, do you believe that perhaps as a racing journalist you've encountered issues being a woman, or perhaps not at all?
I think there will always be an element of locker room humour sometimes, which you can encounter at the racecourse and the press room still, which is a shame. But I mean, I've worked around horses all my life, and I don't really focus on that. For me, it's just all about the horse, and I'm not really interested, and I'll just walk away from it. It doesn't bother me in the slightest. I don't personally feel that my gender has had anything to do with my career progression. I appreciate that I might just be very lucky. I also appreciate that in other countries it is an issue. And obviously something like the Sheikh Fatima Festival, raising awareness and the profile of women in racing is obviously a good thing. But I don't think, for me personally, it's been a big issue.
And for many of us that it is, I mean, look, we just simply have to dig deep and soldier on. Stephanie, your work, fairly similar to Debbie on the other, across the ditch in the United States.
Yes.
You too have had an extensive background in the thoroughbred world, but you crossed over to the Arabians, obviously for their great beauty is one thing, but what led you to the purebred Arabian scene?
Well, when I got started in the thoroughbred industry and an opportunity became available in Arabians, quite frankly, I was one of those people that didn't know Arabians raced. Now, this was more than 20 years ago. So as I became educated in the industry and I started meeting the people of the industry and the leaders of our industry, I noticed that a lot of them were women. Our leading breeders, our leading owners, our leading trainers, our leading jockeys in the United States are women. And that definitely made me take notice, because that's not the case in the thoroughbred industry. So that's part of the reason I stuck with it. Besides the love of the Arabian horse, I became a complete convert. And just the people in our industry that are absolutely fabulous. And so but I am now, I said at the Darleys a few weeks ago, I said I'm now so very honored to be among the women leaders of the Arabian industry. It's certainly nothing I would ever expect, and I owe part of it to the Sheikh Mansoor Festival and Laura Soweya for giving us incredible opportunities to come to places like this. So I'm grateful for that as well.
And I think the opportunity to be together, most importantly, so we can all learn from one another and take something forward from the gathering that we have here in Morocco and continue to develop the industry and our opportunities. Because it is also quite unfair, as much as the incredible opportunities that the festival extends to us all, to continue to rely on that support. We've got to try and forge our own way. So as much as we appreciate the support that Lara drives for everyone, to everyone here in the room, we still need to sort of not be as reliant on our sponsors as well. Now, to Elizabeth Bernard from France here in Apricot down the end. Now, Elizabeth, would you prefer to speak in French or in English? What would you be comfortable with? In French? I'll just make sure that my headset is on.
Je suis désolée.
Certainly. Now, Elizabeth, as a great successful trainer, we had a brief discussion earlier on, and for many people, and indeed for our women up here as part of the panel, there will be different issues for all of us coming from the different nationalities that we represent. And Elizabeth, something that really struck me was what you mentioned about the support that you have from the Middle East as being very favourable to you as a female trainer, yet as a French woman in your own home country in France, you feel that you're at a slight disadvantage. Would you like to talk about that?
Yes, I'd like to first thank, of course, His Highness Sheikh Mansoor bin Zayed Al Nahyan, and also His Highness Sheikh Fatima bin Mubarak, because it's a marvelous moment that we are spending here together. And I would like to thank this marvelous animal, the Arabian horse. It's a brave, courageous and magnificent animal, and around him he gets rid of all differences in skin color, of religions, of societal differences, differences in terms of origins, and everything is torn away. There are normal differences. encounters are very important in life, and I believe that in private and in our professional lives, this can change the future of a human. My encounter with an Arabian horse changed my life and my husband's. And you fairly said that the place where you live is very important. In terms of the way you are perceived as a professional, and the support I received from the countries of the Gulf and from the United Arab Emirates must be surprising, because in our country in particular you only have wrong ideas, people have preconceived concepts, and women under a professional standpoint, I will not tell you about the private sphere because it's the same, but women are perceived, according to my own experience, as the equal of men, professionally speaking, and they are given the chance to prove that they can be as brave, as determined, as strong-headed, to be excellent in their profession. And I would like to really thank all the owners who trusted me, and I would like to say that this is very important at nowadays, because we talk about equality, equal opportunities, but people must know that in France, when you are a professional, when a man and a woman are doing the same job, they don't get the same salary. And in the field of horse breeding, we have the chance to be treated equally financially, because we are treated the same by our institutions and by our owners. We are also treated the same way, and this is really marvelous, and it's an incredible chance we have in that field.
Elizabeth, thank you. Elizabeth, if I can just continue on that point, there is maybe take a little bit of a turn to the left. When we look at the thoroughbred industry, which is so very prominent in France, and equally my own home country, and for Debbie and Stephanie, when we look at purebred Arabian racing, do you believe that perhaps purebred Arabian racing for a woman in France is at the moment a better path or a better course as a professional trainer? Is it easier for you because they're more engaging with women as opposed to the thoroughbred industry in your own country?
Alors, je ne pense pas que...
I do not believe that this is because you're more encouraged. Of course, this festival did lots of things, and throughout the world, he made people aware that sports women, whether they're riders, they're jockeys, and whether they're trainers, may be worldwide competitors. But the thing that makes me think that a woman may perform a little bit better with Arabian horses is that the animal itself is a race animal which is quite different than an English thoroughbred. And you need to have a little bit more feeling, you have to be a little bit more psychological, because you have to transform this animal into an athlete like all horse races. But I think I have sufficient experience with Arabian horses to tell you that they're smarter than English thoroughbreds. And what will make them win is the will to be the winner. It's because the horse wants to be the strongest, and we need to instill that desire in our horses. And I think that women may be a little bit more intimate with the competing horse, a little bit more sensitive. Maybe a man will be less worried about the psychological aspects of the animal.
Well, Elizabeth, I think we certainly know that the Arabian horse, whether it be racing and endurance, is a great thinker as well. So maybe women are just a little bit more in tune. But that's a point for a discussion another day. Moza El Mansouri joins us here. Moza, lovely to see you. Of course, you're with National Feed and Flour, our wonderful sponsor. Your role as a human resources manager. If I can go back on my original point, the backlash, as a human resources manager, of course, you manage many people in your field. You also sponsor this wonderful festival. As a human resources manager, your perspective, how would you advise women? Now, we look at the women that we have up here. You work in an office situation. There are structures in place in any company such as National Feed and Flour where people have to report in. There are mechanisms, there are steps, there are protocols in place if something is to go wrong. So as for many businesses right around the world, if employees put a foot out of line, there are ways that they can be addressed and, of course, counselled and dealt with in an appropriate fashion. How would you advise, would you offer any advice to women that are working out in the field that perhaps don't have these structures around them? Is there any advice from your role as a human resources manager that you could perhaps impart on them to help them go forward? And indeed, any of the women that we find here in the room, when we think about our jockeys, they might have a racing school to report to, or perhaps an owner and a trainer in a stable, but at the end of the day, they are out there in the field on their own to a certain point. Is there any wisdom you would like to impart in perhaps your human resources background?
In the beginning, I'd like to thank His Highness Sheikh Mansoor for this festival. I would like to thank Her Highness Sheikh Fatma for giving us this opportunity to meet together, particularly to a woman who represents Emirati women. And through my work in the Feed and Flour, on my capacity as a human resource director, my company is seeking to implement the strategy put in place by the government of the Emirates, and particularly treating women on equal footing. Men and women need to be treated on equal footing. This is we are still women in the Emirates, and particularly in the private sector, are implementing the strategy put in place by the government of the Emirates, and women have proven their worth in the field, and in this sector of human resources we are still available, and we represent our country in all the races that are conducted throughout the world. This is a case in point of our presence here in this very country. Thank you.
With National Feed and Flour, of course, your sponsorship with this wonderful festival right around the world, you have many staff. How are they made aware of National Feed and Flour's sponsorship? Are they updated with what the company does? Tell us a little bit sort of how your company socially shares with its employees the great work that they're doing and indeed sponsoring.
From the human resource, human resources play a major role, particularly with regard to employees, and particularly women. And women we inform all the employees, particularly on the recent developments and also on the recent races that are conducted in the field of horse racing, and women participate and provide an opportunity to everyone on equal footing. Women are encouraged to express their opinions as well.
Really an important point to note our sponsors too, because without sponsors we don't have races. So a big thank you, of course, to National Feed and Flour coming on board only the last couple of years, but further sponsorship, providing further races, and particularly for women's engagement, further races mean further opportunities. So for a lot of the ladies that perhaps come from less structured background, and indeed that is the backbone, sadly, of racing away from businesses such as yourselves. A lot of us come from unstructured backgrounds. We do really appreciate the support and the ongoing engagement from National Feed and Flour. So on behalf of everyone here, thank you very much. Really appreciate your sponsorship. Now, I can't resist for one moment longer. Lara Sawaya, welcome.
Merci.
Thank you for having me here, and indeed everyone here in Marrakesh. It is just simply extraordinary, so thank you again. That T-shirt has to be the T-shirt of the festival.
Yes, yeah. I'm lucky that, you know, the look of George, we should all be feminists. So let's clap for Maria Gaspari.
Absolutely sensational. I'd like one in larger size for myself, being a little bit longer, but indeed I'd like to see one for all the boys too.
Yeah,
so.
But we want to thank the boys who has come for listening to this lovely panel. because I can see there is 50% of them outside having coffee. So the workshop is coming up tomorrow, guys, and you will not flip with it. So thanks for whoever have attended today. This session is important for racing. Mama Fatma, Her Highness Sheikh Fatma bint Mubarak, has given every single one of us, men or women, to be part of this great festival, which is under its umbrella, is bringing all 6 continents. There's 86 countries from different nationalities and from different religions with the tolerance. And eventually last year, that time we were in the Vatican, we have presented to the Pope with a message from all of us. God is mercy. Mama Fatma has taught us how to be inclusively equal to men, has given every single woman an opportunity to ride in its World Championship. And definitely when we were in the Dali Awards, 1 week, 2 weeks before, it was the Academy Awards in the Dolby Theatre, and Dali Awards for ladies in racing, holding Mama Fatma's big award for ladies in the world. This has given us a privilege and a great thanks to her, which we all need to clap for her.
We sure do. And if I can also back what Elizabeth said, the point that she made, and once again a sincere thank you to yourself, Lara, and indeed Mama Fatima, the extension of opportunity that comes from Abu Dhabi, from Mama Fatima, and indeed His Highness Sheikh Mansoor as well, for so many women. As an Australian, I can't believe the opportunities that have been extended to me that I enjoy as well from, way down under. So without the support of the United Arab Emirates, so many women around the world would not have a reason to smile every morning and something to look forward to. So on behalf of so many other women in Australia, to everyone in the United Arab Emirates, thank you very, very much indeed.
But I need to only specify one point, that Her Highness Sheikh Fatma bint Mubarak always supported not only the ladies, supported the men, and especially the jockeys. Those jockeys wouldn't have the chance also to be like the ladies getting a World Championship series without her support. Today, when we gave the charity for the disabled jockeys also, this is a great opportunity that Mama Fatma has opened to also disabled jockeys, to give them a chance also to live, to look into the future, because it doesn't mean that their life stopped because they cannot continue anymore. There should be something that they can do, and this is within her directives, is just always to take care of others and make sure not only women are in the lead, no, also the men are on the lead. We had under her directives and the directives of His Highness Sheikh Mansoor bin Zayed, which we thank him for all his support for making this happen every year in a country worldwide. This equalism between the ambassadors jockey, 2 ambassador jockeys, let's say we're talking today because we're on the women panel, Julie Krohn and Chantal Sutherland, the best jockeys in the world, as ladies ambassadors for the festival of His Highness Sheikh Mansoor bin Zayed. We also want the 2 ambassadors, men, which is Richard Mullen, #1 jockey in the United Arab Emirates, champion jockey, and of course Xavier Ziani from France. The 4 jockeys are the ambassadors to give the right advices for ladies and men jockeys. And this is so important to whatever we're doing. There's an equalism here. And this is what makes the whole festival within the visions of Her Highness Sheikh Fatma bint Mubarak, and of course my boss, His Highness Sheikh Mansoor bin Zayed, to be always equilibrium. There's an equilibrium between men and women, and always women have to look how to have better opportunities. In the United Arab Emirates, we have the ministers, ladies ministers. We have also also the president of the Council of United Arab Emirates is a lady, Dr. Amal al-Kubaisi, and definitely, which we are very proud also of, ambassadors in the world that are ladies. This is a big chance for them that the government of United Arab Emirates is giving every single equality between men and women, and this is what we all aim for, because at the end of the day, this is the trend of the world which we are working in, and men and women should always feel the equality. It's not because I'm a woman, he's better than me because he can do, has muscles and he can do better than us. We have a brain and we can be better than them also.
Thank you. Of course. Before we go any further, though, with the remainder of our panel, that I'll get round to each and one of them as well. Lara, so far, in just under a decade, what for you has been a highlight of the festival in terms of achievements of opportunities that extend, bringing women forward onto a level playing field with men? What so far has been one of your favourite moments?
Frankly speaking, is the challenge. Today, when we started the World Championship for ladies, so many criticized us. And our temptation and perseverance does not stop us. So instead of having one country or two, we have 86 countries now, 6 continents following us.
No one else in the world is doing anything like this, so, well done.
We follow directives, Victoria. The directives of Sheikh Mansoor bin Zayed and of Her Highness Sheikh Fatma bint Mubarak has been set for us as a festival in order to work within their leadership and their concerns, and definitely because we are open to all countries. We have made for lots of countries who was impossible for them to be part of the festival. We just brought them in through rules and conditions of different criteria in racing in order to get them accepted by other jockey clubs. For instance, like, let's say Hungary. Can I have Alexandra Bihari? Can you come forward? Alex is a great jockey. She's a Hungarian jockey. She's a lovely young woman who, because of her perseverance and her problems between internal problems in her country between different jockey club and association and whatever, they have taken off her license for 2 years. For the past 2 years, we took action against this in the International Federation of Horse Racing Academy, IFRA, and His Highness Sheikh Mansoor bin Zayed had made it very strict for us in order to make sure that this girl gets back into track and gets back her license. Thanks to the new jockey club who is also present today, the problem has been solved and IFRA has accepted back, and we've released the suspension on Hungary, and this young lady has got back her license and she will be riding in Rome this year on June 4.
Congratulations.
So this doesn't mean that we have to sit and look to countries whether they will accept some stuff. That really we have to look and work within conditions, proper conditions, and not to be selfish. That's very important in racing. Selfishness has to be out of the game, and we really need to watch out to the rules and regulations, which my boss always put us into the path, right path, in order to look at every single country's rules, regulations, conditions before we put our races in. Today, when Dr. Andrew has asked about LASIX, it's not because we are always going to take the whip and say, oh, we want to put this and those. No. We asked Susan Meyer about acceptance, like, for example, about the conditions of the countries. And, for example, if you have a race in such particular country and we do not have, we have to stop LASIX. LASIX is bad. This is the horse welfare. If we have the problems with Cobot in United Arab Emirates and everywhere, I'm sure LASIX can be stopped somewhere also. So definitely maybe we will not jump and exceed the rules, but we will have our own path also to make sure that maybe this race in Pleasanton, we will just take it easy and make sure that all trainers in the United States understand that LASIX for the festival is prohibited, and we do not want to work with horses that are taking LASIX.
Laura, thank you. Now, if I can just also head down the end again to Debbie, but Debbie, you've got an announcement that you released this morning. Would you like to just briefly share that with us as well? This is thanks to Arabian Racing.
Absolutely. And in actual fact, there's been several very interesting developments in our country for 24 hours. What you're referring to is Ellie McKenzie. We were approached last year by an organisation called Racing Welfare, which primarily has supported thoroughbred racing in England. And Racing Welfare supports from the minute your career starts to even beyond when your career has ceased with thoroughbred horses, and indeed now Arabian, so that you can be a groom, you can work on a stud farm, you can be a work rider. It's not like the Injured Jockeys Fund, which just supports injured jockeys. This is for everyone throughout, and it's to support people with maybe housing issues or possibly drug dependency issues, or you know, all ranges of problems that you might encounter where people start falling through the net, or even just someone to talk to because they've moved away from home for the first time and they're working away from home. So it fulfills a very useful role, and they've wanted to raise their profile, and they approached us before Christmas looking for someone who might represent Arabian racing as an ambassador, because they had some other amateurs that they wanted to support as well. They have somebody who supports point-to-point racing, which is amateur jump racing in England, and they also have someone who supports amateur flat racing in England. So today we announced that Ellie McKenzie, who started her career and had her first winner under Arrow rules, she's going to be our jockey ambassador. She was lucky enough to be picked to go and support and to represent England in the Sheikh Fatima bint Mubarak series. So it's a wonderful tie-in, and it shows that you know, the support that the series gives young people, and particularly obviously in this case ladies, but also the apprentices, the male apprentices, as Lara mentioned. That's great news. The other good piece of news that we had this afternoon is that in Australia, and you'll forgive me for reaching for my phone because I'm not familiar with names of races in Australia, but Rachel King, who won the, she was our champion Arrow jockey in England. She then won the International Best Lady Rider Award 2 or 3 years ago now in America. She's just won a listed race in Australia, and she's only the second woman ever to have won that race. And I think, you know, that's a great achievement for her.
It certainly is, and congratulations to Rachel. Of course, that's the Wagga Gold Cup, as opposed to, Laura, your pronunciation is the Wagga. It is Wagga Wagga is actually the town. It's also, for our English friends, the birthplace of Scobie Breesley as well. So an extraordinary achievement, indeed, trained by Gay Waterhouse in conjunction with Adrian Bott. So congratulations there to Rachel. That is fantastic news. If we can just step away from our announcements just for a moment, and I'd love to engage, of course, with Mona Benjaloum, who joins us here representing Morocco. Mona, welcome to the panel, and we're so pleased to be here in your beautiful country. Mona, you're one of the more prominent owners of Arabian horses here in Morocco. Now, unfortunately, your start as a racehorse owner, that came about, sadly, very sadly, the passing of your late husband, but it certainly wasn't a role that you were prepared for, was it? Can you tell us a little bit about this situation and how your life as a racehorse owner and breeder here in Morocco has transpired?
Okay. Well, welcome first to all of you. We're very happy to have you here in Morocco, and thank you to Lara, who shows that women can organize things very well.
Thank you.
And all around the world. And I came to the breeding and racing industry in Morocco by accident because of the death of the Zakaria Hakam. And I was really ignorant about the industry, totally ignorant about it. I knew nothing, I had no hints about it. And he died very suddenly at the end of 2009, and without any transmission of knowledge, without anything. So I had to discover by myself, and I had a lot of support from especially his network in France, from the thoroughbreds. And we didn't have a lot of Arabians at the time. We had just a few Arabians that we bought in France from great breeders. And it is about 5 years ago only that we started breeding ourselves Arabians with international level. And that is why our first ones are only 3 years old today. What can I say about everyday life in Morocco? We have a farm located not very far from Casablanca, 40 minutes drive from Casablanca. And we're breeding there, and also we have a private racetrack. So, Sorek is helping us a lot, and with the importation of salmon, fresh salmon, and frozen salmon, sorry. And so that we can have, what is nice in the Arabians is that it is very easy to import salmon and to have the stallions available, which is not the case for the thoroughbreds, where we have to export the mares most of the time when we want to change from the local stallions. And in Morocco, a lot of people now are breeding Arabian horses, and I think that we're trying to, all of us, raise the standards and to be able to reach, hopefully, the international level. We have now listed races in Morocco. So it's much better than it used to be in terms of level. But we're still improving, and we have a lot to learn from you, and we're very happy to exchange and be able to learn from you. And as a breeder myself, and as even in the racing, I have made a lot of mistakes, of course, a lot of mistakes. But I try to learn from my mistakes, and I take history just for learning from it and try to prepare a better future.
Bravo.
So, well done. Now, Mona, of course, we learnt recently that there are approximately 1,000 racehorse owners here in Morocco. I could be wrong with that figure, but around about 1,000 racehorse owners. Mm-hmm. Roughly, apart from yourself, how many other women here in Morocco are actively engaged as a racehorse owner or indeed breeder?
We have, some women involved as breeders, and especially in the racing also, but not a lot. We're very few. And we have also two jockeys who are great. I don't see them here, but we should really encourage them a lot. And we have also vets, women vets in Morocco, who are very important. And we have also the ladies of the Sorek, who are very encouraging. And as a woman, I can say that a lot of men did not accept me at the beginning. Well, it's not that they didn't accept me, that I was like an alien to them. Well, slowly it changes, and a lot of people supported me and helped me a lot. And even for the women, we had a trainer, a French trainer. She was a woman. She was a good trainer, and she worked very well in Morocco. She's not here anymore, but she was just fine. And I think that, well, you do your own way when you start something, and well, it doesn't bother me with the negative. I always turn to the positive, and so do the women in our industry in Morocco. So.
Well, it certainly is. You are a wonderful, inspiring lady here in Morocco, indeed. If I can just steer away from you for a moment, Renee Koch, if I can get you to join into the conversation. Renee, welcome. Lovely to see you. Now, you would prefer to speak in French?
Oui, s'il vous plaît.
Oui. Lovely.
Yes, please.
Certainly, and I'll apologise to our interpreters too. As someone calling greyhounds, I'm trying not to talk too fast, so my sincere apologies. Renee, lovely to see you as a prominent French breeder. Of course, there's a fabulous connection with yourself and Elizabeth Bernard as well, but we'll get to that shortly. As a breeder, we discussed this earlier before we came up on stage. You don't believe you've encountered any difficulties being a woman. However, one of the discussion points that was brought up lately in the audience with the breeding lines, of course, the dam is so important, of course. And women in racing, it's not just about two-legged, it's about four. So, Renee, as a breeder, the dam lines, and yesterday, of course, Dr. Deniri brought up late in the conversation with the breeding discussion, Armour as a broodmare sire. Would you like to talk and share your experience as a breeder, but also how important the dam lines are in purebred Arabian racing?
Tout d'abord, je voudrais profiter de cette opportunité.
First, like to seize this opportunity to thank all the countries of the Gulf to have created this horse, because throughout their selection, through centuries, they created a totally different horse. Thanks to the work of Bedouins, they made a strong horse that would win endurance races, and also flat races, and an animal that is close to men. And since he's different and close to men, there is a very strong intimacy that creates direct bonds, in particular with women. So I'd like to really thank the countries of the Gulf to have created this horse that went through centuries, and in spite of that kept its qualities. And I would like to also thank the countries of the Gulf nowadays, because as a breeder, my mother started breeding, and so it means generations of Arabian horses that we've been breeding. And in the 10 past years, since the countries of the Middle East have started investing in Arabian pure-blood horses, the model of this horse has tremendously evolved, and the races too. And I was far from imagining that we could improve the situation so quickly, and to have such amazing Arabian horses, and this is thanks to the push of the countries of the Middle East, the Qatar, the Sultan of Oman, Qatar, Abu Dhabi, and Sheikh Mansoor in particular, with conferences of that scope where there's a real encounter and possibility to exchange with other professionals. And I'd like to thank Lara for all the energy that she's been deploying, and we must say and recognize that she knows how to run her troops.
Lara certainly does that indeed. Renee, if you can just share with us, and indeed I'll ask Elizabeth to join in as well, many of your successful breeding and training collaborations, a horse such as Sylvain Almori, if you'd like to talk about a horse that you've bred, that you've had great success with, and perhaps Elizabeth has trained, a favourite horse of yours, what would that be?
Actuellement, le premier nom.
Now, the first name that crosses my mind is Sylvain Almori for different reasons, because on the one hand side, because it's an international success, and she was born at home, so it's a story of sharing, so it's a passion, you know, when they're born in your own house and you love them, and also because with Elizabeth Bernard, she really drew the best out of her, and she became a friend because she invested herself as much as I did, and also because she belongs to the Sultanate of Oman, and I know that everything is done over there to you know, take care of her the best in the best possible manner. And also with regard to Moroccan breeders, this gives hope that in Morocco and in very many countries of the Gulf, they may become successful, because every time Sylvie goes to Dubai, she's more beautiful over there than here. She is fit for those countries, and it is really an exchange that is extraordinary. It's an international exchange.
Venue à Abu Dhabi.
Oui.
She came to Abu Dhabi. Yes, Sylvie came to Abu Dhabi. She came to the big race.
And the only Abu Dhabi equestrian club.
Well done. No, I might just ask Elizabeth to join in the conversation there as well. As a trainer, your experience, Elizabeth, with Sylvain Almori, what impressed you the most about her? What did you love about her the most?
Eh bien,
Well, what I really adored is also what I love with human beings, intelligence, courage, talent, because it's a horse that physically is not impressive when you look at her. She's small, she's very well shaped, but you know, there are lots of horses that are much stronger, but you know that Arabian purebloods have evolved a lot in their capacity, in their morphology as well, and Sylvain is small, is petite. She's absolutely well shaped, and loved her at the outset. She was a little bit, you know, difficult to handle when she turned 3. But what's interesting is to take care of a quality horse on whom you have to still work, and waking up every morning when it's your job to go and meet your horse, ride them, as I have a chance to be able to ride every morning. I'm lucky enough to observe their progression and their physical transformation, their intellectual transformation, and this is a pleasure every single morning, and this is what makes our passion. At the beginning, you become a professional because it's a passion, but it's also because it's a fulfilling passion that we remain in this business. And Sylvie is part of the horses that makes people happy, both her owner and all her entourage are happy. When a horse wins, it's not only the work of one single person, of the jockey, of the trainer. It's not only the fruits of one single person. It's a fruit brought by a whole team, by the management, by the owner, who believed, who've been listening when he was advised to buy a horse. It's a teamwork. And it's marvelous to see that everybody's working in the same direction, hand in hand, to get a hell of a horse. And really, this depends on a beautiful encounter sometimes, and Sylvie is part of the best encounters in my life. But I was lucky enough that with Mrs. Koch, there was another very important encounter. We lived extraordinary moments in Turkey, in Istanbul, in the UK with Mr. Combo, who's Mrs. Koch's companion, and he's a great breeder, and he's got an exceptional horse called Guise de Gazard. And maybe in our place we only attract large horses. I must recognize that at our place the female horses have changed the game, and also another horse which is very beautiful. She was the best in the 4 past years, of course. The best in the stable, but also she's part of the exceptional horses. She's courageous. She has a truly amazing personality, and she won the Arcs weekend, and she was 30 lengths ahead. It was something exceptional for an Arabian horse. I rarely saw that in any race with Arabian horses before.
Goodness me. Well, I think even the animation in Elizabeth's face too, and indeed Renee's earlier, and Lara's, all of the ladies here, and of course Mona as well, the animation in a woman's face, the joy of the animal and what it's achieved speaks volumes. Now, I'd love to welcome Lojan into the conversation in the middle. Lojan, we last caught up at the Dali Awards in California. Lovely to see you here in Morocco. Social media is your thing. You're a social media expert. You have somewhere between 5 and 6 million followers. Lojan, you're using mainly Snapchat as your method. Is that correct? Or Facebook as well?
That's right.
So how are you communicating with the wider world? Is it just Snapchat, or are there other mechanisms that you employ?
Okay, first thank you, and thank for all of the people here, and thanks for the translator guy. Thank you, sir. I'll give you a break, and I'll speak in Arabic. يسعد مساكم جميعا للحضور وللسيدات الرائعات اللي موجودين معنا بالمنصة، ولكل المشاهدين الآن معنا وين ما كانوا. سعيدة جدا وفخورة أني أكون موجودة اليوم في مهرجان الشيخ منصور بن زايد. شكرا للشيخ منصور على هذه الفرصة، شكرا للقائمة يعني على كل هذا المهرجان، يعني بأدق التفاصيل. السيدة لارا صوايا الرائعة اللي طالما قلت أنه هي قدوة اليوم لكل السيدات اللي بتواجه تحديات كثير ممكن يتعلموا من خلالها. وأيضا تحية دافئة جدا للشيخة فاطمة بنت مبارك اللي الكل بيسميها أم الإمارات، ولكن أنا ولارا دائما بنفضل نحن نسميها أم الجميع، ومثل ما بتناديها لارا ماما فاطمة. يعطيها ألف عافية والصحة وطولة العمر يا رب. كلنا عارفين اليوم مدى تأثير وقوة السوشيال ميديا. سابقا إذا بنتكلم عن الإعلام الكلاسيكي، إن كان المسموع أو المقروء أو حتى المشاهد، كانوا بيسجلوا وبيصوروا الحدث وثاني يوم بيعرضوه.
So whether it's in writing and orally, they were recorded and broadcasted either later or it was printed. But today we must say that thanks to the strength and the power of social networks, everything is broadcasted live. You cannot miss anything. You're at home, you're in your sofa, and you can get information instantly. You can know what's going on dozens of kilometers away in a very clear and objective manner. So hence the importance of social networks, and they have enabled us to benefit from those platforms, whether this is Instagram, Facebook, etc. What creates real unity between the different publics when we talk about festival, that's COPE. And this is, of course, thanks to the support of His Highness Sheikh Mansoor and the Princess Fatima. We seek to correct any cliches around the Arabian woman as a tortured woman, or a woman who doesn't have any rights, but those activities demonstrate that this is not true. It is true that women are discriminated, and this is the case everywhere in the world, whether in Europe or in the United States. But it is true that there are inequalities between the countries, but we also must recognize that even in European countries, women sometimes do not have access to some fields or responsibilities, and they only had access to some rights around the 50s, and some sports or specificities also are quite macho-minded. And when we look into the world of horse riding, we see that women are put forward in our country, and centuries ago there were some women amongst the companions of the Prophet, and in the first century of Islam they were riding horses and they were taking part to activities just like men. And this is a criteria that existed a long time ago for Arab women, and they were horse riders a long time ago, but with the evolution of the Arab societies and the regression of the usage of horses such as a means of transportation, this was limited to men, and men have kept on riding horses, whereas women were no longer allowed to. So this is part of the history we need to understand. And now when we look at the efforts deployed by Princess Fatima Mubarak and His Highness Sheikh Mansoor, they are part of the leaders who take part to the construction and the establishment of trust and the autonomy given to women. And thanks to social networks, I convey that image and I try to broadcast it as much as I can. When we talk about the support brought by Princess Fatima Mubarak, we are only telling the truth, and it is our mission as a communicator.
Lojane, that is sensational. And what I'd like to ask you now is how that we all get in contact with the service that you're providing, because the misconception in so many countries, particularly in the West, about the rights of women in the Middle East, what you're conveying is so important to get the right message out there, and particularly the unity that this festival promotes. So well done to you. But how do we reach out to you? How do we connect to you? Your mechanisms are Snapchat. You
can find me everywhere, by the way, but maybe Snapchat and Instagram is the most.
Instagram. Okay, so we'll see Lojane Omran, and your address on Instagram?
Yes, it's Lojane_Omran, and Snapchat is Lojane.Omran. And I told also Tomo last time in LA that I have 7.5 million now, and
Wow.
they're increasing the social media.
It's brilliant. It really is. And, to further build on what we discussed this morning with the media panel, of course, the strength of social media and getting the right message out there. And that is such an important message because the support that we all enjoy from your part of the world is so important. And I would dearly love to share that where I come from, and so indeed with many other women as well. So thank you for your engagement there. Now, racing is not just something that you report on as well via your social media tools. Your audience see many other events as well. The races that we'll see this Sunday here in Marrakesh, of course, we've got men and women riding as well, but particularly the focus with this panel, the ladies' engagement. How do you think your followers will view that? What do you think their perception will be or their reaction? Is that something that they look forward to?
اليوم من خلال السوشيال ميديا لما نقول لهم
social media, when we focus on women, I'd like to encourage also young girls so that they can engage in the activity, in horse racing, and we need to inject fresh blood into these girls, and this is very encouraging to them. And so Lara Sawaya's presence is immensely important, and so really I don't want Lara to be invisible. It's like working in when we work together, the vision and the picture will become clearer. What is the role of social media? And so someone really came to the lobby of my hotel, and he said where is he? This young girl? No, he's with us here. is Faisal. You came to my hotel, and so really, really, I informed him and that she knew that there was a racing taking place in the Al Ain, and she was really focused on this racing, and so she was focused on this racing. Lovely. And this is our goal, is to involve women in through the social media and convey the appropriate message on the love of horses, on the really provision of education is quite important. And when we focus more on horse racing and on various other sports activities, I think every sports activity requires its own specific tools. And so really horse racing is the only sports activity that needs really the availability of a soul. A feeling has to go from the rider to the horse and vice versa. And I think it is quite important to focus on the two.
Thank you very much. And once again, I look forward to engaging with you on Instagram. Snapchat I've still got to learn about. And indeed, I encourage everyone here in the room, particularly from countries such as my own, the UK, wherever else, to get the right message out there and about the fantastic things that United Arab Emirates and indeed the whole Gulf region is pushing, not just for women, but for people, and most importantly, social inclusion and engagement. It is so very, very important. So well done to you, and lovely to have you here as a part of this panel. Now, if we can step away from social media, and it is so very powerful, of course, over the last 10, 20 years or so, and come back to Stephanie Coram and Debbie Burt here, who both write professionally. You've got your publications. Ladies, if we can just have them up so everyone can see. Before I caught the plane from Australia, it's a very long way to Morocco, but we got here safe and sound eventually. There was an interview on Australian television with an Australian author who's married a very prominent British legal gent, Kathy Lett, who has now released another book. I think it might be her 6th publication. And it was interesting to hear Kathy, who's been published all over the world, how her publisher mentioned that, of course, the Kindle sales of books, or books, that you download on Kindle, were in decline, as opposed to the hard copy and the resurgence of the hard copy. Of course, Arabian Finishing Line, and indeed, Debbie, your publication down the end as well, the Arabian Racehorse, there are great costs associated with printing and things like that. Have you seen a resurgence in the need or the desire for a hard copy with your racing publics and the people that you engage with?
I think everybody wants a hard copy. Unfortunately, being able to fund a hard copy is very, very difficult, and I could not have started my magazine without it being digital. There was very much a need. We had no, other than social media and the odd slightly outdated website. We heard on the media panel this morning about websites which looked like they'd gone to sleep. Well, there were a few of those. And there really wasn't anything that was very current, and certainly that was reporting in depth on any of the racing in our country. I've been amazed at how well and how widely my magazine has been read online around the world. Stephanie and I both use the same digital platform to publish on, a platform called Issue. And in the publisher's statistics, it gives you a world map, and you can see how far you've reached around the world. And obviously countries like the UAE and America and France, where there is a strong following of Arabian racing, are always going to rank highly in the statistics. But I saw I had a readership in Papua New Guinea. So where there is obviously no Arabian racing. So it's now whether that was a tourist who happened to be logging on and reading it there, who knows? But it's just very interesting to see the statistics. My copy averages, you can keep the statistics for lifetime. My copy averages about 9,000 views per edition. And, I'm very happy with that, really, because it's still quite a niche sport. But it is a way, digital is for me anyway, the best way of spreading the word of Arabian racing in England particularly, though obviously I support the festival and obviously things like the Dual Crown, which is wonderful to be able to go and report on. My edition, much the same as Stephanie with the Darleys, my November edition was pretty much all about the Dual Crown, but also I had features on a chap called Ryan Coley, who was supported for a scholarship. He's been in England, he's obviously English, but he's been to America to learn to be a starter. He's been starting races in England. So it was lovely to be able to give that story wider publicity and to be able to show, you know, what the efforts of obviously Lara Sawaya and the Sheikh Mansour Festival have done to support, and to do that through digital and to get that sort of reach. I could never have afforded to do that in a print edition, even though I would love to be able to print it. It would be amazing, but there you go.
Debbie, thank you. Stephanie, in the United States, are you seeing a resurgence in the desire for a hard copy? I mean, everyone loves one, but as Debbie's mentioned, there are costs associated with printing and production. What's the story in the US?
I personally have not necessarily seen an increase in the desire for a print. However, I have seen I've read other articles and that sort of thing that have said the same thing, and that even people, the younger generation, are actually starting to go back to print. So there is that, and I have a small but very loyal print publication following. However, it is very expensive, and this alone doesn't cut it. So I've actually been looking at, a couple of years ago, after I took the magazine over, I created a digital edition, but I'm looking at expanding even further into some other things, including a podcast that's going to start in May, and some other ways to diversify, to keep spreading the word, trying to keep building things up, and while keeping the traditional print, but also expanding into other areas.
Well, that's good to hear. Stephanie, thank you. Lara, if I can come back to you for a moment and also engage our jockey ambassadors as well, Richard and Xavier. Lovely to see you both here this afternoon, as I've just dropped my sound piece. Sorry, Sam, you'll probably want to have a word to me about that later on. Lara, of course, with the many precedents the festival has set, particularly for women, but also the great engagement we have with the men on board as well, because we all just want a level playing field at the end of the day. When we look at purebred Arabian racing and the Group 1s, and of course this festival, how it's built around that, and we now have, of course, the wonderful Group 1 of the Dual Crown,
yes,
which is such a fabulous race. We look at another precedent that you've said as well, Chantal Sutherland. Chantal was the first woman to ride in the Dubai World Cup back in 2012, of course, a great thoroughbred race in Dubai. But we look at her engagement in the Group 1, in the Sheikh Fatima, only recently in California. Yes. When do you think we're going to see female riders regularly booked to participate in purebred Arabian Group 1s?
When this depends on the trainers. It's not on us. But in this particular race in Santa Anita, we had great help from Keith Brackpool, which is the chairman of Santa Anita Park, which we all salute. And we really missed him with us this time because of the Kentucky Derby, which is the same time of this conference. Chantal would have come, but I think she would have been preferred to go to the Kentucky Derby, so that maybe she would have a run, or she would have a lead to take part in that particular in this particular day. It's not far for a jockey lady to ride in the Group 1 races, because Julie Krohn, our ambassador's jockey, has won 3,900 races in her life, and this is a huge number for a jockey, which this is why we always choose the best as ambassadors and ambassadresses for Sheikh Mansour Festival. We just don't just pick this one because it came by chance. No, we pick it because there's lots of criteria behind the jockey itself. and especially attitudes and graceness with people and social media effects on them. You know, we need people that love media. We do not want media people, we do not want ambassadors that will tell a camera, sorry, I don't have time for you, or I don't want to talk, or I don't feel like talking. No, those ambassadors are there to explain to these young jockeys that or the ladies that there are lots of hard work behind not only being a good professional jockey, but also to be a good ambassador for their own country, because maybe they are ambassador of Sheikh Mansoor festivals, but every single jockey in the world is ambassador of his own country.
If I can just, and thank you, if I can just invite Richard and Xavier to join in the conversation just briefly as well. Sorry, Elizabeth, yes.
Yes, if I may, I would like to add a small detail with regard to what's been said yesterday, with regard to, the discharges of women in French races. I believe that the decision that was taken was badly interpreted. I'm going to try and explain the feeling of the President of France, Gallo, because he launched that idea. His feeling was that he based himself on statistics, because what everybody may not know is that for a number of years now, there's been in apprentice schools in France, because you can only become a jockey in France if you go through an apprenticeship school, a learning school. So there are 85% of young girls who join a professional jockey apprentice school. So it means only 15% of men. So in the very near future in France, to ride horses, there will only be 85% of young women. Of course, they will not all be great jockeys, but within 20 years' time, if nothing changes, and this curve changed 15 years ago already, there will be practically no more male jockeys. So the kilos of discharges were not given to women because we believe that they are not inferior to men, not at all. They were given to women to help trainers, because when you are a trainer, you know that the weight matters for a race, to really invite the young girls who already are in the profession, because in any profession, most of all if you're in sports, if you don't practice, you can't get better. If you want to become a good jockey, you need to ride horses, you need to practice, you need to train. But it's not the only thing. You need to also ride in competitions, because the context of competitions is a totally different mindset and context. In the French mentality, and I say in France, mentalities need to adapt to the fact that women should be considered as real jockeys, because within a few years there will be the majority in competitions. I'm not sure, maybe if my English is not too bad, there are lots of women who were against that discharge, thinking that it was a sort of a discrimination, trying to explain that women were inferior to men and that we had to compensate for some weaknesses. But any doctor will tell you that we don't have the same amount of muscles, but our brains are also very important to win races and to ride horses. And if you have a less strong arm with a very strong mind, you can compensate for a lot of physical weaknesses. But this is for the future of horse riders in France. You need jockeys to ride horses. In our country, there will be a majority of women riding those horses. It's not at all because we think that women are inferior. It's just to help them practice.
So from Elizabeth's point of view, obviously there's a fair way to go in France. To Xavier and Richard down on the floor there, last year in Rome, you met Linda Meach from Australia. In the time that's passed since our last meeting in Rome, Linda, of course, has gone on to win another Group 1 at Flemington only recently as well. But my point before, Chantal, of course, going around in the purebred Arabian Group 1 in California. And as Xavier and Richard, you said yesterday, if Michelle Payne had 5 kilos on you guys, you'd be pretty worried. But equally, you look forward to the level playing field and the engagement and seeing more women actively engaged riding against yourselves, don't you? Or maybe not with 5 kilos less.
Look, my opinion, I'm pretty sure men and women are really equal on the horse. I do understand the French authorities give the allowance for the girls back, for the point of Mrs. Bernard said, and it's very important and good for them. But again, I'm pretty sure on the horse we are on the same level, and I think horses, so making everyone on the same level. But if you look at the panel here, you have Mrs. Koch, Mrs. Bernard. I'm sure we have over here Marie-Ange Bourdet. They are the best breeders in France. All right, they are women, and they give the horses to this woman to train. So we have a woman mafia around, you know.
A woman mafia, goodness me.
And after what says Mrs. Bernard about the percentage of ladies in racing, soon on this panel won't be women in racing, but men in racing. I think that the things are going to change. I'm
sure they will.
No, I'm pretty sure men and women are really equal. We saw in UAE in the past, you had, and she's still here, Jackie Wickham, who's a woman trainer. We used to have Jill Duffield. Mr. Nabuda used to give him his horses. We have Elise Jan, who won a Group 1. And we have the first, with Richie Millen, of course. We have also Salha Al-Gurer, who's not here today. She could not make it. She's the first UAE woman trainer. And I'm very... Salha. And I'm very proud because I was the first jockey to ride for her. Unfortunately, not to win, but the first to ride for her. So, yeah, men and women, I'm pretty sure, especially with Arab horses, as Mrs. Bernard said, are really equal.
We are, and we love you boys too, believe me.
Can I just make one point there? I'll keep this very short. If you look back at the UK, our last year's leading apprentice, Josephine Gordon, female. If you go back maybe 6 or 7 years before that, Hayley Turner. So in the UK, we're seeing a big shift now in you know, it's not primarily male-dominated. And if you look at Josephine Gordon at the moment, she's riding mainly for Zayed bin Surur and the Godolphin operation. So I think that just shows you that it isn't all about the men. It's if you have the talent, then I'm pretty sure that you know, we're all as good as each other.
Richard, thank you, and that's a very important point. Before we get just to a question, if I can ask Michelle Hagley from Australia. Michelle, where are you in the room? Michelle, lovely to see you. And just quickly, if we could just have a microphone to Michelle. Now, Michelle hasn't exactly contested a Group 1. However, I know Michelle would like to say what a wonderful opportunity this is too. And Michelle, this is the first time that you've had the chance in your riding career to represent your country. How will Sunday feel for you?
Well, first of all, I'd like to thank Lara for the invitation and His Highness Sheikh Mansoor and Her Highness Sheikh Fatima for this amazing opportunity, and of course Nadine Frampton and Sarah Oliver. Yeah, definitely it's exciting, and you know, I haven't had the Group 1 success, but to be invited is definitely a big step. So,
now Michelle, this is a world opportunity for you, and in Australia we are so far and so removed, but to bring you here, and of course Michelle, you're living regionally in Australia, you're a long way out of Melbourne, but if I can just share some information about, we chatted personally, so I'm allowed to do this, and I've got Michelle's permission, but in the not too distant future, Michelle is going to step away from race riding. She has 2 small children, a family to consider. So to Lara and indeed everyone here with the festival, this is going to be one of the great occasions of your life. So good luck to you on Sunday. I'm so very proud of you. And indeed the festival for the engagement and the extension of opportunity to someone like Michelle is just simply outstanding. So good luck, ride safely, and we look forward to seeing you go around on Sunday.
Thank you.
Michelle Hagley from Australia, everyone. Well done. Are there any questions? Yes, sir.
Khalid from United Arab Emirates. I would like to thank all the partners of the conference of His Highness Sheikh Mansoor. Without them, we will not be here to hear those good advice. And I would like to thank National Feed Flower because they are one of my suppliers for my horses. They are very good, and I would like the breeders in the Gulf to use them. Their feed is fantastic and their price is really reasonable. My other request to Rani Kosh, you are very expert lady in pedigree and in horses, and you are one of the foundation in France. I would like to see and requesting you if you can write a book about your experience to help us and to help all the young generation. Thank you very much.
Khalid, thank you. Lovely to hear from you too. Do we have any further questions? Lady at the back.
Yeah, hello. And first I want to thank Sheikh Fatima and Lara Zawaya for this opportunity to the girls to bring them out in the world. This is a revolution worldwide. It's never been before. And also I want to say something for the men here in the room that they think the girls maybe can make it. And I come back to you, Lara. Maybe we don't have muscles, but we have brain and we can think. And that's what Julie Crown was saying again. The race you win with sensitive, with rhythm, and with bringing in front the horse, not with muscles. So everything is about the media to bring out the girls and show the world that ladies can run races legal like the men, like my colleague Xavier, and like Richie. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We've only got a couple of minutes remaining. Any further questions?
Can I answer
Elizabeth,
for
yes.
Mrs. Koch to Mr. Hanabuda in English? Please, sir, wait 20 years more because Mrs. Koch writes every morning and you wait 20 years more for your book.
Sir.
Ahmed Al-Falasi. I would like to thank all the women. The woman is my mother. The woman is my wife. The woman is my daughter. I would like to see the first UAE jockeys soon. Lara, please.
Inshallah.
Inshallah.
Well done. I thought that was superb. Ladies and gentlemen, we've run out of time. Can we please say thank you to the women in racing? Outstanding.
Derek, thank you.
Victoria, brilliant. Absolutely superb. Well, we all enjoyed that. We're now going to have the official photos. And I just want to mention for people here tonight, the buses will leave at 6:30 tonight. We're going out about 30 minutes outside of Marrakesh for a superb evening of entertainment and dinner. So much to look forward to. And we're back here tomorrow, live on Yes TV. Stay with us.